Colonial architecture in New York, British influence, 17th and 18th centuries. Throughout New York's early history, architecture stood as a testament to the powers that controlled the region. Under British governance, Georgian-style architecture came to define the landscape, bringing a striking emphasis on symmetry, classical details, and formal layouts. This video delves into the historical and cultural impact of British architectural influence in New York, particularly highlighting the iconic Francis Tavern as an enduring example. New York's history took a dramatic turn in 1664 when British forces seized control from the Dutch, renaming New Amsterdam to New York. With this shift in power came a cultural and ideological realignment. The Dutch, fond of practical and functional designs, left behind architectural signatures like stepped gable rooftops and cozy urban dwellings. In contrast, the British envisioned a colony that reflected the values of the empire: order, hierarchy, and sophistication. Architecture became a powerful tool for British administrators and settlers to impose these values. Georgian-style design, which was flourishing in Britain during the reigns of George III through George III, became the preferred style in the colony. It introduced a level of refinement and control that symbolized imperial dominance and social organization while accommodating the local climate and materials. The resultant transformation was far-reaching, gradually replacing the more casual, asymmetrical style of Dutch architecture with structured, proportional Georgian designs. This not only altered the appearance of the emerging city, but also spoke volumes about the cultural and social adaptation of the colony to British ideals. Under British influence, Georgian architecture flourished in New York, bringing with it a series of defining features that set it apart from its Dutch predecessor. At the heart of Georgian design lay an adherence to symmetry and classical elegance, both in facades and interior arrangements. One of the most distinctive characteristics of Georgian architecture was its rigid emphasis on symmetry. Exteriors were meticulously designed to reflect balance, often with an entry door at the center, flanked by an equal number of windows on each side. Symmetry extended to interior layouts where rooms were arranged around a central hallway, creating a sense of formality and order. This architectural harmony represented more than aesthetic preference. It was a reflection of British colonial ideals. To the British, symmetry symbolized discipline, control, and the hierarchical structure of society. By embedding these principles into the very framework of their buildings, they reinforced their cultural dominance. The widespread use of brick was another hallmark of Georgian architecture. In its practicality, brick reflected the British need for durability and longevity, standing resilient against New York's punishing winters. At the same time, the red-tone facades provided a refined and orderly appearance, in contrast to the stucco and wooden finishes favored during the Dutch era. Brick construction also held symbolic meaning. It conveyed a sense of permanence and affluence, aligning with the goals of establishing the city as a stable and thriving colonial center. The clean finish of bricks complemented the symmetrical layouts, creating a uniform elegance that became synonymous with Georgian style. Windows became an integral part of Georgian design, not only for practical but also for aesthetic purposes. Large sash windows, usually featuring 6 panes per sash, were carefully proportioned to fit the symmetrical framework of the facade. These windows allowed for greater light to penetrate the interiors, enhancing the livability of structures while maintaining the formal appearance of the exterior. The British brought classical inspirations into their architecture, drawing heavily from ancient Greece and Rome. Pediments, whether triangular or curved, often crowned doors and windows, adding an element of grandeur to the otherwise simple facades. Columns and pilasters, though less common in residential structures, occasionally framed entrances, reinforcing the air of regality in larger public or civic buildings. These classical details added a finishing touch to Georgian buildings, elevating their overall appearance while highlighting the architect's reverence for history, culture, and tradition. Together with symmetry and brickwork, they created a cohesive and elegant aesthetic that symbolized British prestige. As Georgian architecture swept across New York, it brought not just changes to the exteriors, but also to the building layouts. Unlike the Dutch, who prioritized practical configurations over style, the British introduced structured interior floor plans designed for specific purposes. Formal layouts often revolved around central hallways, ensuring that rooms on either side mirrored each other in both size and function. This symmetry extended to the use of space within homes, where rooms were now designated for specific activities, such as parlors, dining rooms, and bedrooms, each reflecting the resident's social standing. Public buildings, too, adopted these formal configurations, showcasing the colonial administrator's ideals of organization. The structured layouts projected the authority and discipline inherent in British governance, further emphasizing their cultural imprint on the city. Of the many structures embodying British influence, Fraunces Tavern stands as one of New York's most iconic examples of Georgian architecture. Built in 1719 by Stephen Delancey, the tavern now serves as a window into history, representing not only an architectural feat but also a landmark of revolutionary significance. Fraunces Tavern's exterior is a classic representation of Georgian design. Its orderly brick facade speaks to the durability and sophistication prized during British rule. The building's symmetrical arrangement, with evenly spaced windows and a central doorway, epitomizes the Georgian emphasis on balance. Large sash windows allow light to filter into its interiors, while pediments above the door lend an air of classical grandeur. Inside, the layout follows the formal structure typical of the Georgian style, catering to both public and private functions at the time of its construction. Fraunces Tavern is more than an architectural specimen. It is a pivotal site in American history. The building played host to key moments during the Revolutionary War, including George Washington's emotional farewell to his officers in 1783. Its transformation from a symbol of British refinement to a cornerstone of American identity mirrors New York's broader evolution during the 18th century. Today, Fraunces Tavern remains a well-preserved example of British architectural influence, offering visitors a tangible connection to both the city's colonial past and its journey toward independence. Georgian architecture in New York City was not simply about constructing buildings, it was about communicating values. Through these structures, British colonists projected their ideals of hierarchy, governance, and civility onto a landscape that they sought to control. This alignment of architecture with political and social values ensured that buildings like Fraunces Tavern were more than just functional spaces. They were cultural statements. They symbolized a commitment to order and refinement, reinforcing the societal structures within New York under British rule. Even as New York transitioned from a colony to an independent city, the influence of Georgian architecture persisted. Modern architects drew inspiration from its symmetrical and structured designs, ensuring that its legacy remained woven into the city's fabric. British influence on New York's architecture during the 17th and 18th centuries was profound, reshaping the city's aesthetic and cultural landscape. Georgian architecture, with its symmetry, proportionality, and classical elegance, became the hallmark of this era, leaving a lasting imprint on the colony. Buildings like Fraunces Tavern stand as enduring monuments to this architectural heritage. They reflect not only the craftsmanship of the time, but also the broader ideals of British colonialism, from hierarchy and order to cultural control. Yet these structures also tell the story of a city evolving toward its role in American independence. As we look back on this period, New York's Georgian architecture offers more than a historical glimpse. It serves as a reminder of how built environments are shaped by the values and aspirations of those who inhabit them. The legacy of the British remains etched into the city's architecture, an enduring chapter in its rich and layered history.